Hello. I'm making a relaxing clay video and I want to talk about defense mechanism processes that are happening in the brain that are usually unconscious, that are always functioning in an unconscious, because the moment we become consciously aware of them, it stops, because we caught them in the act and we look at it and say, haha, I caught you doing a defense mechanism. Now I know what this is, and now the moment you become consciously aware about it, you are no longer dwelling in this unconscious act out, obviously. The moment you catch yourself doing something that you know consciously that isn't going anywhere, at that moment you're stopping, you're looking at it from above. And that's really the consciousness becoming process. I have never been able to disconnect or split off in my consciousness. This has yin and yang. Okay. This has plus and minus. Yin and yang is not really plus and minus. Yin and yang is like, it's just, it is this, it's existence with shadow and light, which is not, there's no judgment in it. But, in the same sense, we have plus and minus in an evaluative sense for our own lives, which one is plus, which one serves us, and which one is minus, which one doesn't serve us. So becoming disconnected does not serve us. Okay, it is just a defense mechanism to protect a brain or child from feeling too much pain in a situation of extreme trauma and extreme fear, where the fear is so extreme that it could, where that realization of loneliness could be so overwhelming that the child would be so traumatized and so devastated that it might cause a heart attack or something else. So the people that have this ability to split off in their consciousness, they will do this. They will do this also unconsciously. The brain is just capable of doing it, so it does that. I have never been able to do it. So this has plus and it has minus. Okay. So what protects people that are splitting off from consciousness in that moment when they're a child and they are able to disconnect mentally into all kinds of different mechanisms. It could be just anosognosia, it could be retrograde amnesia, it could be splitting off into different personalities that are completely disconnected from one another, or that are functioning independently. I have never been able to do any of these kind of things in my life. I don't know what it's like. I don't know how that feels like. It probably feels a little bit frightening. It probably feels like where you become afraid of yourself of your own unconscious, where you become afraid that you might split off and do something that is terrible, that you would suffer from later on. Some kind of short circuit reaction in some situation where you're psychologically disconnected, or where a different personality takes over and does something that is so unconscious and so disconnected that you didn't even realize, you don't even have a recollection of having done something, or people doing terrible things in their sleep. Works on the same principle. Sleepwalking. I have done that. I've done that 2 or 3 times in my life where it happened. One time we were on a vacation in Connecticut when I was 15 years old. And we were staying in a house from a friend of a friend. Real nice people. And the house had exactly the same. Was exactly the same style and had exactly the same rooms and the same stairs as my grandfather's house. So that was also a very strange coincidence. And so I was dreaming that I was sleeping in exactly the same room and in exactly the same bed as I had been sleeping at my grandfather's house. So I wake up. I didn't wake up. I get up while I'm still sleeping, and I'm packing up my suitcase. I put a pillow in it from those people. I didn't know what I was doing. My mother came out of the room where normally, the parallel room where my grandparents were sleeping in. And she stood there by the staircase and hollered at me, "What are you doing?" in a real mean way. And that's when I woke up. That's when I realized, what am I doing here? What is this? This is the strangest thing in the world. So, and just like one or another 2 more times that where I sleepwalked and did something out of my total unconsciousness. And in each one of those dreams, it felt like there was an urgency behind it, some kind of emergency, like a psychological emergency that was driving me into this trance-like of dream walking, sleepwalking state. You're asleep, but your body doesn't have sleep paralysis. This is a dangerous thing when that happens. So terrible things can happen. Later on, I heard about a case where a man was sleepwalking. We got up, got a knife, and killed his wife next to him in bed. Stabbed her like 100 times, something. Then he went back to sleep. He didn't wake up the whole time. Went back to sleep. Woke up the next day to find his wife stabbed. He calls the police. He's devastated. They did investigations, couldn't find anyone breaking in. They found the knife with his fingerprints. So the evidence was too much against him. They put him into a prison for criminally insane people. He had no recollections of it at all. None. They just figured it must have been a sleepwalking case. And then at some point during this therapy process, the memory of that night, of his actions, complete, clear, wake memory came back. He was sleepwalking, but it was stored like wake memory, and it suddenly came back like after half a year or so. And he had to be, they gave him medication. He was not able to function at all anymore. He wanted to die. It was so devastating to him that when he realized that he actually did that. Before that, it was like he still had this thought, so this is too unreal, that must have been someone else. So then we become afraid of our own subconscious. Then we become afraid that of all kinds of things. What if I fall asleep, and what if I hurt someone while I'm asleep in a trance-like state? Terrible, terrible thought. It's one of the worst fears that I have. So, and then I wonder, because all of this, sleepwalking and doing something violent, which I haven't done, but I'm afraid of that. When someone is sleepwalking and they're doing something violent, or when someone is awake and suddenly has this intrusive thought. I have a lot of intrusive thoughts that are very violent. And I wonder where these thoughts are coming from. And then, I see I'm not the only one. There are other people that have intrusive thoughts that are violent. Most people are religious in the world, and most people that have intrusive thoughts, first of all, would never talk about it. Particularly not in a video publicly. They would never talk about it to anyone, and then it escalates, because if they don't talk about it, this thing gets worse. and then there's a lot of people that will then attribute an external force into it and say, oh, that must be demons or the devil or a different soul or negative entities attached, extraterrestrial entities, and so on. This is how people then start to rationalize it in a very unrational way. So, which is not the case. When there are violent, intrusive thoughts, that's the unconscious. That is unfinished business. That is emotional pain from childhood. And I know for a fact that when we sit down in meditation, we should not be afraid. Don't be afraid. It wants to talk to you. You give it that space in meditation. You don't run away 10,000 miles per hour having the TV or a radio on in every room. No, you make it quiet. Let that thing come up and talk to you. That's when the ghosts come and talk to you. That's the ghost from the unconscious. It wants to talk to you, and if you give it that space and you say, come on up, it's safe, then it will come up and it will talk to you, and it might feel bad and painful, but breathe and cry through this, okay? And then the more you do it, the more this terrible thing dissolves. More and more and more and more dissolves, okay? And then there is no more violent thought, intrusive thought coming in. There's no more thing that can come in through sleepwalking. Okay, you guys,